The time is just gone, 8:57. We continue this morning. eThekwini Secure, our weekly slot. And we are now joined by the chairperson of eThekwini Secure, Imtiaz Syed. Imtiaz, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, United. How are you doing this morning?
Alhamdulillah, I see this morning you're wearing the Active Citizens Coalition hat because
Absolutely.
we're talking about Mayor Kaunda, the vote of no confidence, and this has been prompted by the ACC tabling an urgent motion to remove the mayor and as a member of the executive committee.
No, absolutely. When it comes down to the issues, United, and many people have asked us from last night to this morning as to why are we tabling this motion. It's quite clear that ultimately there's a first citizen in every metropolitan, in every municipality, right? Now, based on the fact that we've got an executive committee, the executive committee is led by the mayor. And if we're coming through floods and lockdown and unrest and all of these things, and the mayor was nowhere to be found, ultimately it speaks to where are we in terms of leadership. And that speaks to exactly why we're now moving this motion. But to bring it to the point of contention at the moment is that a very simple thing, and we really underestimate the impact of the tourism industry in eThekwini itself. I mean, as you'd know, Durban is a go-to place when it comes down to the use of the beach. How is it that the first citizen of our municipality can go out to the beach in confidence and say that the beaches are good to use and you can use it, it's fine, without any scientific evidence or proof or surety that it can be done, except for him swimming in the beach? So that was the point that we brought in terms of an urgent one, because that is something according to the rules that had happened recently, which happened in December. But based on the fact that we originally went in voting for the mayor, we've lost a lot of our constituency in terms of that. And everyone, spoke ill of us and said, you guys, why did we vote for you guys and all of that? This is to show those very same voters that we were not obligated to the ANC in any way. We went in that direction in a coalition with other smaller parties to be clear that we wanted service delivery as a priority towards us as ACC, so we could now deliver. And that hasn't come to fruition. Ultimately, the city has been fraught with politics, with all of these things that happens, and there's still so much of infighting within the city. All we really want is we want to bring stability to the city, and if it means moving a motion of no confidence against the mayor, then so be it. And ultimately, it comes down to him. Where do we start? How do we now go to HODs and DCMs and all of that if we don't have the ear of the mayor? So that's where it is, Inai.
Yes, and apart from the beach issue, there are other issues. The question of water, 2 billion
Absolutely.
rand that has been lost in revenue, the question
Correct.
of homelessness, vagrancy as well, and also just in terms of how the city had managed the disaster as a result of the flood.
Correct. I mean, right now, there are many citizens, especially from those marginalized communities at the moment, that are still fighting and battling broken homes and flood devastation, where the city hasn't come out with a clear direction and plan that, guys, yes, we are in charge of the stormwater reticulation within the city, the damages caused to your property, this is how you claim, we have insurance for it. Nothing. There's no clear communication around those issues, and we leave many, many poor people destitute ultimately at the end of the day. When it comes down to the issue of flood victims that have been removed or moved from these temporary tents and shelters, they're still moved into temporary accommodation. For how long that's going to go on, we don't know, because ultimately it comes down to those service providers not being paid and then everyone being kicked out. And that's where we're coming from, because there is no sustainable things that happens in the city at the moment. Everything comes down to a knee-jerk movement. And one thing that we need to speak to is currently you'd see in the past week in the community of Phoenix, we've had protests wherein the communities by far and large that are not the type of communities that generally protest and block roads have now taken to the street. That tells you something in itself, that there's a lack of service delivery within our city. There's a lack of communication between communities in our city. And if ordinary citizens are now standing up, it shows the trajectory and the direction we're going in as a city. And we now need to speak to our people and say, this is the way we need to move forward. And this is the direction we're going forward. Because ultimately, if you look at it, and let me try and put something else in the minds of people, is that currently there's so much of negativity around the ANC that it leaves ordinary citizens despondent to report anything. I mean, if you ask someone to report a pothole, they say, but why should we do that now? Because there's nothing that's going to happen of it. And that allows for deterioration. So therefore, there needs to be change. And change is always good. I'm not saying that change is better, but change is good. And that is something that we need to do, and we need to move forward from there.
Yes, Imtiaz, what are the chances of the other parties supporting your motion?
You see, the dynamic of politics is clear and it's evident, right? On the side of the bigger national parties, you need to understand that they have higher structures to listen to and to answer to, right? Now, with a party like ACC moving a motion where we have no differences with any other party, we talk to all other party leaders, but based on the fact that I'm the leader of the party, I can be decisive and take a decision to move a motion without it taking a long time in terms of caucuses and this, and we need to ask everybody and all of that. So we're putting this motion on the table, right? And it's clearly evident that it is what other parties want. So all we're doing is we are opening that door and we're putting the question on the table. Any party, any opposition party that doesn't support it, it's something that they speak to anyway. So we're basing it on that. Yes, we have had discussions with a few other parties, of which I'm not going to mention right now. But in terms of what we are doing, we are putting down a motion in an unbiased manner because we have no discrepancies or issues with any parties, whether it's the DA, EFF, IFP, all the small parties. We've got no problems with anyone. So based on the fact or with us coming to the party, it doesn't mean that if the EFF supports it, the DA can't support it, because it's not a DA motion, nor is it an EFF motion, if you understand what I'm saying. It's in support of a smaller party motion. So that was the strategy behind it. And it's clear that it needed to come from a party like ours so that it can be supported by all oppositions as a collective. So basically, we're using ourselves as a tool for unity in the opposition.
Well, that and also very, very strategic. And this is where, you know, what I'm actually reading into this. Imtiaz, we certainly will follow developments and to
Yeah.
see, you know, whether will the motion be entertained by the chief whip?
Well, the Speaker of Council has tabled a meeting for Friday to put this motion or address this motion so that it can be put in full council on Tuesday next week. Remember, we're sitting today wherein I'm being lobbied to be the chief whip of eThekwini municipality. Now, the reasoning behind me putting in my motion yesterday was that we're unsure of the outcome of today. We might I might become the whip, I might not become the whip. But that's not the be-all and end-all of it. It is something that the oppositions are putting forward. I'm fine to take that position. And if we don't get that position, I didn't want it to seem as though because we didn't get the whip position today, we're now moving a motion. So therefore, I've moved the motion. It's supposed to only be 24 hours. I moved the motion yesterday so that it doesn't take away from the actual reasoning and understanding of why we're tabling the motion. The motion has nothing to do with the outcomes of today in any way.
Well, let's see what develops, Imtiaz. But as always, Jazakallah for your time. And hopefully we will watch a space and we will definitely get feedback from you at some point in time. But for now, we wish you well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imtiaz Syed this morning was us, and that brings us straight on to news. We've got Syed standing by.